Next on MLR Weekly, head coach of the New England Free Jacks, Scott Mathie, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News with previews and opinion, John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with MLR headlines and news, and the best recap in the MLR. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Welcome to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. And again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And again, we have a great show for you, so you won't be disappointed. We've got the head coach of the high-flying New England Free Jacks, Mr. Scott Mathie. We grill him with all the tough questions. We also have Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News giving previews and opinion. We have yours truly doing the best recap in Major League Rugby. And yes, I'm talking about myself, so you can take that with a grain of salt. And before we do any of that, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with MLR News/Headlines with Mr. John Fitzpatrick. John, it's always great to see you, but again, what's with the tie, guy?
Matt, I'm wearing a tie again because so long as the Toronto Arrows keep pulling off ties, I'm going to keep putting them on.
And what are you going to be pulling off if they win?
Once you find out in round 15 and on my OnlyFans channel.
Oh, cliffhanger. Next!
Hey, Old Glory DC, speaking of ties, they were fortunate to escape with just a tie when they played on Thursday night and remained in second place in the Eastern Conference after both NOLA Gold and Rugby ATL failed to pick up any table points in round 14. But Matt, I got to ask you, Old Glory DC, they played on Thursday night, as I just mentioned, only 3 or 4 days after playing in round 13. 2 or 3 days, 4 days, that seems like too short of a turnaround. What do you think?
On the surface, it's horse hockey. You know, you've got a Thursday night game, proven concept, a failed concept in the NFL, and here we are doing it. There's got to be some other ulterior motives or reasons for them to do this, and if there's not, you got to stop it immediately. Thursday night games in this league, with the budgets as they are, is horrific. And DC, in a playoff race, if they were well rested, they would have won. Next!
Hey, let's go down to Dallas, where they picked up their second win in franchise history and their first win on the road by beating Rugby ATL. But Matt, I want to harken back to our episode here in April, after Dallas picked up their first win in franchise history. We asked the question, would Dallas win another game this season? And the consensus seemed to be that, yes, they would, because teams would rest their starters down the stretch. But Matt, did you think Dallas would beat a team like Rugby ATL that's in the thick of a playoff race?
Yeah, I love Dallas. I think they're a much better than you think team. They don't quit. They play 80 minutes. They play on the road. Ask New England, 10-9, right? Ask Chicago. This is a decent team. Inexcusable loss for Atlanta, though, and maybe it's the curse of the management's fixing that something that wasn't broke, or whatever. And we talked about it briefly on the Rugby Odds this week. It's inexcusable loss for a team in a playoff race, and that's not knocking Dallas. Next!
It's certainly not peachy there in Atlanta, but hey, let's move over somewhere where it's sunny, San Diego, where the Legion returned to action in round 14 as they host the New York Ironworkers. If the Legion win this game, that'll be their 10th straight win, tying the record set last year by the New England Free Jacks. Will the San Diego Legion beat New York in round 15?
New York, we don't have their roster right now. We know San Diego is pretty darn healthy, and they're coming off a bye. New York's coming off a bye, but they've had a slew of injuries, if you will. And are they healthy? Is Jack Hyten going to play? Is a Brendan O'Connor going to play? Is a Nick Mayhew going to play? All key components to that team. Are they going to be back? If they're back, New York's got a puncher's chance at keeping this one close. And if they can keep this one close, historically, they give San Diego problems. I think New York can end the streak. Next!
Matt, last but not least, it must be the nice weather sweeping across the country as we head towards the unofficial start of summer. But the New England Free Jacks set a new home attendance record in round 14, and the Utah Warriors announced a sold-out crowd over 4,500 fans. All great signs. But Matt, are we going to see another 10,000-person crowd before the end of the season?
Well, first of all, they're doing everything right in New England, and I may or may not be saying that because our featured guest this week is head coach Scott Mathie of New England. But answering your question, I don't think we're going to see another 10,000 fan regular season match this year. Next!
Well, bah humbug, Matt. Jeez, you're going to end the segment on that?
Listen, as John Adams said, facts are stubborn things, and that's a lot of fans. I mean, you know, I'd love to see it. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see the San Diego fans pack that Snapdragon Stadium for New York this weekend. Why not? You got the defending champs coming in San Diego. Go to the game, God damn it. Anything else, John?
Sesquipedalian. That's all I got, Matt.
Sesquipedalian. It's the $20 word in a 10-cent conversation. On that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Don't go away, because we're not going away. We have our recap, the best goddamn recap in Major League Rugby right now with yours truly. Plato once said that ties are like kissing your sister, which is confusing because he meant his, not yours. So Plato would have loved Toronto as the Arrows tied an opponent for the second straight week, much to the chagrin of Old Glory DC, who had to play on short rest and travel to Canada. 9 tries were tallied on the night as the Arrows survived a yellow card and frustrated the team from the nation's capital, the USA's, not Canada's, in the red zone. Ironically, DC's Canadian Kyle Bailey tackled the most Canadians and led all tacklers with 19. Final score, 29-29, but once again, Old Glory gets key points in that Eastern Conference playoff race. The Devil went back down to Georgia looking for some souls to steal in the form of the Dallas Jackals. Irregardless, wait, that's not a word. Regardless of whose souls were stolen, Rugby ATL fans had their hearts broken as die-hard Dallas, trademark, jackaled their very first win on the road from an Atlanta team that continues to confound/disappoint, sabotaging their chances to make the postseason tourney. Dallas did all the little things, winning the battles in the scrums, lineouts, and restarts, all on the road. The upstart Dallas Jackals doubled their win total, 27-19. With the backdrop of Utah's magnificently majestic mountains, the Utah Warriors and the Houston SaberCats engaged in a Wild Western Conference showdown. Henry Bell, Calvin Whiting, and Yuri Van Buren combined for 46 tackles, Warriors all, which along with some great rugby got the sellout crowd going. In a hotly contested match, the home underdogs declawed Space City's Cats and Gideon Van Vyk just enough, earning a hard-fought and crucial victory, 34-28. In the Pacific Northwest, I just love saying that, Seattle and the Chicago Hounds combined for 26 penalties. That's just downright naughty. But the visitors from Chi-Town also got a yellow card. Further, Seattle made it into the tri-zone 5 times, while Chicago made it there but once. Another tough loss for the Hounds, who find themselves all alone at the bottom of the Western Conference. Seattle, meanwhile, keeps the heat on San Diego for first place in the West. Final tally, 35-13, Rookie ecstatic. The NOLA Gold went into Quincy, Massachusetts, seeking a positive result just to remain in the Eastern Conference playoff race. But the Free Jacks, playing in front of their raucous, rowdy crowd, were the only ones with a positive result. And man, was it positive. New Orleans concedes 8 tries and manages only 3 points on a penalty goal in a 50-3 lopsided loss that dampened their flickering postseason hopes. New England, by the way, made 252 tackles in their dominant win. And with New England's win, we have New England's head coach Scott Mathie waiting in the wings. But we have to take a quick break first. We'll be right back.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
Hey, you need rugby cleats and you need them tomorrow? Well, rugbynow.com. www.rugbynow.com. If you order them today at 3 p.m. or by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they have youth cleats, male and female. They have adult cleats, male and female. You can have them by tomorrow if you order them today, 3 p.m. New York time, noon LA time in the United States. Rugbynow.com.
Go off, yeah, hit the ground, then I go off, yeah, run it, ooh, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my, yeah.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Back with the head coach of the New England Free Jacks, Mr. Scott Mathie. Scott, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Matt. Always enjoyable.
Scott, there's so much we got to talk about here. But first of all, your success with this team, once again, is stunning. And congratulations on the season so far.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's always good to see the side going well. But I reckon there's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes to get us moving in the right direction. So, I think a lot of credit goes to all those role players, but going on behind the scenes, the management staff, the players. It's on track, but there's still a lot to go, and there's the business end to still go. So we got to just make sure we stay on point.
All right, so I've got my questions, and I'm trying to get the proper order for these questions because I'm ready to jump. I'm so excited. Coaches are never satisfied, right? Pretty much until they hoist the trophy or the shield or whatever it's called or the cup. So with that, after your win over NOLA by 47 points, I believe it was 50-3 was the final. Finish this sentence. Yeah, we held the goal to 3 points, but
man, I'll tell you what, I was pretty satisfied with yesterday's performance.
How dare you?
No, like sometimes I've got to the point now where like you got to enjoy some. There's so many games that we sit as a Free Jacks team, and we've never been a team that's liked to win by more than 7 points. So when we get these games like this, we just got to sit back and just enjoy it a bit. Man, if you can't enjoy it a little bit, then geez, you're just going to be in a cycle of despair, I reckon.
Are you concerned going into next week that your guys are going to be still too exhausted from running 8 tries in on this weekend?
No, stop it, come on. No, we're a humble bunch. Like it's every week we get, as I say, we enjoy the day after, we enjoy the moment of getting a result like that. But when we walk in on Monday or day one, whenever it is, we really got stern protocols and things that we just make sure we reset and focus on the next game. And I think that's been part of our strength in the last 2 years. Is just being able to really turn the dial and switch back to, okay, this is the most important game this week. There's no more important game than the next one.
What was the situation with Vanderbank not taking the automatic 7?
Oh, I don't know why they have that rule, to be honest. I mean, we don't want that because then we have to run back to the halfway without any rest. So at least when you put it outside of the poles, you give the guys a breather, you can reset, you get the formation ready to go for kickoff. You stick it behind the poles and you're sprinting back, and the opposition's got the what do you call it, the favor there. So I don't know what the purpose of that rule is. I know what they're trying to do and create more ball and play time and get the game flowing quicker. But
we talked about your offense, but your defense made 252 tackles against NOLA. Ferocious defense. Shut down what many consider to be a pretty high potent offense in spurts to but 3 points in front of a great crowd. You got to take pride in that.
It's awesome. I mean, it's definitely the way we wanted to play the game against NOLA, and that strategy definitely worked, and we're able to live off a lot of their mistakes, which is perfect for us. And different games present different ways of playing. I think the last game was different to this one, and just really proud of that. I think more so that we were able to handle it at the end there with the last couple of minutes and just not give them anything. I think that speaks more for me about the team and where it's at mentally, just refusing to give them just one or just something, and it's easy to just relax in those scenarios. And so really proud of that.
Scott, I'll get you out of here in just a second, but there's a burning question across the league. Where's Waka?
He's waiting. He's waiting. He's nearly ready. I think we just had I think when guys come from overseas, what we found is that transfer from turf onto grass onto turf. It's not always easy, and it has its toll over a training week. So we're just making sure that his body is right and ready to go.
So it's a grass to turf thing. I'm trying to find some controversy here. Throw me a bone. I'm like, okay, where is he going to play fullback? Oh,
who knows, No, man, we're excited to see him back, man. He's obviously the MVP, so we're looking forward to getting him some game time, and I think you'll probably find out in the next few weeks.
Is it like Michael Jordan coming back from baseball to the Bulls? Is that what this is? I mean, he didn't, Japan was a big adjustment for him. He wasn't, he came from being MVP of this league to getting some playing time over there. And now he's back. Is this Michael Jordan returning?
When Michael Jordan returned, he went on another massive run,
He won another ring, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's hope that's the case, You
like that script. When or if you make the final in Chicago, is there a team out of the West that you'd prefer to match up against?
Oh man, to be honest, like when we talking about what's happening in the future, sheesh, man, we got loads of things to cross before.
There's the coach. There's what I was looking for, right? I
mean, it's so far ahead, and we know what happened last year. So I mean, we would never put anything ahead of that. But to answer that in a hypothetical sense, like I just think all those top fours. I mean, I just think the West has got some good teams. Even Chicago's put some performances. It's a real. This league is quite. You get these teams that are performing really consistently all the time, and then you've got teams that are just off who are inconsistent, but on their day, you underestimate them at your peril, man.
Well, it might be pretty cool to see Woodgie and Rucky in some kind of fight in the ring or something. Maybe John Layfield, the WWE guy, referees. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, we play Seattle in a few weeks, so we can hope get Woodgie on the plane. Get a ring up there, see what happens.
All right. On that note, Coach, I want to thank you for your time.
Great stuff. Always a pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
All right, Mr. Scott Mathie, the coach of the New England Free Jacks, the streaking New England Free Jacks. We'll be right back after this. And we are back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Always great to have you, Bryan. How are you?
Fantastic. Lovely to be here. And Utah, this terrific crowd behind me, taking in that game. Nobody's left the stadium. They're still, celebrating after that terrific win by the Warriors.
All right, so Bryan, just quickly, what's your thoughts on last weekend?
Well, I mean, really the standout for me was the crowds. I mean, sellout in Utah, sellout in Seattle, sellout in Boston. That's terrific for the league. Obviously, the weather is helping, and we kind of figured that, as things warm up a bit, things will get better, but it's still, you're never quite sure, right? So to see that kind of, fan engagement heading towards the business end of the season, and we are right there. So that was fantastic.
All right, so let's get to what's ahead of us, Bryan. The Free Jacks, your Free Jacks against your Arrows, which is complicating things here. So is it going to be a tie? Is it going to be a third tie in a row for the Arrows? Is that what they're doing? They're mucking it up. They're clogging the neutral zone. They're playing the trap.
New England is effectively, sewing up the top spot in the Eastern Conference. They're 15 points up. They can absolutely clinch it if they have a bonus point win against Toronto. I think that's probably what they will end up. I do think they're going to rotate their squad a little bit, but rotation means Bodine Waka starts, so it's not like, that's oh joy. New England doesn't have a bad lineup, whatever they put on there. So they're going to be tough. Toronto, though, 2, draws, kind of spoilers draws in a row. They haven't been spectacular, but they've been better than terrible. I'll give them that. They're certainly trending up a little bit, but I don't think you could pick against New England in this one.
DC, Old Glory DC. This is going to be a tough one. They've got Seattle coming in.
And Seattle is playing so well right now. I maybe underestimated them before. I'm not sure I'm going to do that again. They look great at the moment. But DC, I mean, you're right. They are kind of, they're a tough side. They're not an easy out by any stretch. Where I think they're maybe lacking a little bit is the full impact from the bench. Maybe not quite as much as what you might see from Seattle. But this is a tough one to call. DC at home are going to scrap for this. They want to be in the playoffs. They know they've got to win at least one or two of these games in the last 4. So I'm going to go with Seattle on the road. I think it's going to be really close. I definitely think DC can win this. It's going to be close, but I'm going to side with the Seawolves.
And picking up on your baseball vernacular with they're not an easy out, they are tough at bat, DC. They make the pitchers battle. Houston, who dropped a crucial battle in Utah, are now at home facing the Chicago Hounds. It's cats and dogs, Bryan. Cats and dogs.
Yeah, Houston weren't bad against Utah. I mean, it was certainly a competitive game. They just kind of slipped away in that second half. There was a couple scores right before halftime. We're
expecting them to be more than competitive. We're expecting them to be one of the front runners in the league.
That's true, but I mean, you have to give them some credit at the end. They came back. They knew that they had to get some points out of that. It was after 80 minutes, time was up on the clock, and they got the try they needed, and that's 2 bonus points. So that means instead of Utah jumping straight ahead of them, they're now at least level on competition points. Now Utah's ahead because the tiebreaker is wins, but Utah is absolutely still in this race. So, or Houston rather is still in this race. At home, I don't think they're going to give this one up against Chicago. Chicago did not look great against Seattle, you have to say. To their credit, they did get a try in that second half late in that game. So that was something for them. But defensively, they looked really a bit of a mess in that one. You have to think that forward machine that is the SaberCats is just going to roll over those Hounds, I think, in Houston.
I will say this. Coach Cooper of the Utah Warriors was on this program, and his team has been on a roll since. The MLR Weekly bump, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Look it up. Google it. Utah, who we were just talking about, hosting Rugby ATL, another team that had an unbelievably disappointing performance, and at home against the Dallas Jackals, who now have twice as many wins as the expansion Chicago Hounds.
Yeah, it's not just one disappointing performance from ATL. Those last 3 games were must-win, circled on the calendar, picked out by Stephen Brett, saying we need to get these points. Out of 15 points, they got 7. That's not good enough. No. Mathematically they're not eliminated, but I don't think they're going to come up with the points to get in the playoffs now. It's going against Utah. On the other hand, Joe Mano, absolutely storming game against Houston. There's a guy who said, hey, Scott Lawrence is watching. I'm going to show him what I can do. He was fantastic. Connor McLeod is really zipping at scrum half at the moment. He's linking well with Joel Hodgson. I love how the way Mika Kruse is playing. I got to go with Utah.
San Diego hosting New York, both teams coming off byes.
Yeah, and you have to figure, San Diego's kind of cautiously played some of their, certainly rested a few of those bodies, those older players kind of in the last few games. You have to think they're going to throw their big guns out for this. And they know that New York is not a team that's going to, walk in and flop. Although, we have seen New York travel to California and not do so well before. But I don't think we're going to see that this time from New York because, the Ironworkers know that race in the East is tight and they want to at least get, home field advantage for one game if they can do that. Amory coming back, he's certainly sparked this offense a lot. He's a big return for them. So I'm interested to see what lineup New York more so than San Diego is going to put in here. I think it's going to be a tough game, a scrappy game. I'd kind of like to see New York really, get physical and take it to San Diego. We haven't seen a lot of teams do that this year. We saw Houston early in the season do that, but not a lot of teams are putting real pressure on San Diego. I want to see that. And that's kind of a game that New York likes to play, put it down in their end and get those lineouts. And then you got the Dylan Fawcett special and those lineout drives. So I'd like to see them take that kind of approach and really try and bully that San Diego side, see if they can do it. And at worst, maybe get a couple bonus. So I think this will be a close one. I don't think you can pick against San Diego who've won. I think that's 9 in a row they've won. So I think this is the one that ties the record, if I have that correct. So
you do. You are correct,
so, I'm not going to pick against them to win, but I think it'll be a close one.
I'll pick against them for you. How about that? Again, it's pending roster. But if I got Mayhew and I got O'Connor and I got Heighton in there and I got Ben Bonasso healthy again, and maybe even a sneaky pick like Pongo Hakma Heine and or a Joe Basser. I mean, the list goes on and on for New York. But any of these guys can make an impact, and that's the key component here. But I'm sticking with my guys. I'm sorry. I'm just doing it. And final thoughts, Bryan.
4 weeks to go. This is absolutely it. I mean, it's do or die for all these teams. New England, San Diego, we've been saying it now. Although, San Diego, even on that terrific run that they've gone on, they're only 5 points ahead of Seattle. So, maybe not as automatic as we thought as the top in the West. So that's certainly, up for grabs now. New England's got the East, but man, you still got Old Glory, New York, ATL, NOLA kind of in that mix, even though DC and New York are looking a little bit better. In the West, you've still got Utah and Houston neck and neck. So we've still got some games to play. And man, we said the lesser teams would play a part. Toronto now 2 draws in a row that everyone expected them to lose. And certainly Dallas beating ATL on the road. Who would have predicted that? I totally did not. So that's fantastic. I'd love to see it. So really exciting end of the season ahead.
Great season, great competition, playoff spots coming down to the wire. If you're the commissioner or the CEO or whomever the power that be, you have to be happy with the way this is working out. The teams and the fans are all biting their nails to the quick, but that's what you want in professional sports, right? And on that, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Coach Scott Mathie of the New England Free Jacks, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the Rugby Odds, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. It's not painful. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.